I believe that there is room for the progress of the human race, but I'm also very much aware of the tragedy that's going on and how dangerous things are right now. But I do think there's a better understanding. I think compared to my dad going to 6 years of school and ended up being a businessman, way back 120 years ago, we have much more knowledge. And I know this campus has a lot of scientific knowledge. It's way ahead of what it was just a few years ago. And it's just going on and on and on. It's just trying to get people to associate that with a moral standard of nonviolence. And I think we could all contribute a lot to it. So that to me makes me an optimist in the long run and a pessimist in the short run. And but also believe that we as individuals can play a role in this. It's not a numbers game. It's not how many people are. It's not if you have 50% agreeing with you. It's whether or not you're a participant in spreading ideas. Ideas have consequences. And then, if that is the case, if you're in, no matter what business you're in, or what profession, or what your ideas are, you only need about 8% of the people saying the right things, and things change. But sometimes it's so slow, and I think so about the tragedy of the 60s with Vietnam. I was drafted, and I was not in Vietnam, but I was in the military for 5 years. But just think of the tragedy. 60,000 Americans died, millions of Vietnamese died, the French died. It went on because we did not want communism to spread through the Southeast. So we finally had to say, we lost this war. Which Johnson would never admit. We lost this war and we left. And guess what happened? They became more westernized by being ignored. We won, much more was gained in peace and in war. And there's no reason why that can't happen. And just think of the Korean War went on when I was in high school, when my teachers, one of my coaches, went off to killed in Korea, which seemed to be so insane. So we weren't legally supposed to be there. We were instructed by the UN, you go do this, and it's illegal now, you don't worry about your Constitution. And so the war never ended. We didn't know why we were there. We didn't know what victory meant, but we had to stay. And how many billions and billions of dollars we continue to spend, and how much interference are we participating in now? We don't even let the South Koreans talk to the North Korean. This fact that they're about to cancel the talks now. Moon in South Korea said, let me go and talk to Un. But our government won't. We're too busy trying to get Assange back here so we can do something to him. But I think that the ideas are out there. I think they're so positive. I think when you get it with people and talk in the YAL and the different groups you have, when you talk, I think it has to be for a lot of fun and enjoyment and getting along with people. Because when people come together and sort of grasp this philosophy, they're not going to be picking at people for political correctness and trying to get you to lose your job because you didn't use the right pronoun. But I would think this is all going to be worthwhile. I think they're over the top. At least that's my reason. That it is so bad that people say enough is enough. And I think some of that is coming about right now. So I think enough is enough. I think we have way too much government. I think we should have constitutional government that is designed to protect liberty, defend our country if we're attacked. I think we should have a government, if they participate in the monetary system, that it should be of honest value. But I wouldn't mind the market deciding exactly what it would be, because they're not going to create a system like this because nobody would want to deal with them if they did. So no, you don't need a lot of government. And if it's peace and prosperity that you're looking for, and that's the goal that I generally work for, I think we have to accept this basic principle of non-aggression. Mind our own business and let people go. If they offend you, let them offend you, because you shouldn't have the authority to do anything. You really don't have the authority to do it. And that's where the trouble occurs. And with government, I would say the other day I had an audience, and the audience was medium to libertarianism, but they did like one thing I said. test it on you. I finally said, you know what I think we should do is get rid of at least 80% of the federal government and we all would be better off.
Amen.
Any questions?
Sure. So we'll do a couple of questions. You raise your hand real quick up there. So back there. A couple of questions.
Thank you so much. My name is Eric. I was a 2012 delegate to you, sir. Thank you so much. My question is actually real simple. I would like to ask you to, invite you to come to the Wake Republican Liberty Caucus meeting after this. This is Dr. Jim Taylor. He's a medical doctor. He's going to be giving a talk on medical hemp. So, love to have you there. It's at a place called Rally Point in Cary. It's a really good grill bar place, good prices, plenty of parking, and I can fit a few people in my Suburban. But anyways, also thanking him. But yeah, I'd love to invite you, and my question is, would you come?
Sounds like you're on the right track.
Hi, Dr. Paul. My name is Grace. I'm a North Carolina State Chair with YAL. I wanted to ask, at our meeting the other night that we had in Charlotte, one of my members posed the question about vaccines, and the whole part of the libertarian philosophy is, as long as you don't hurt other people, that you should be able to do what you want. And someone brought up the argument of, well, by not getting vaccinated, you are inherently hurting other people by infecting them with diseases. And I wanted to know what your stance on that is as a libertarian, but also as a physician. What you think about that argument and where you would say you stand on that. Thank you.
I think that is the argument they were making to you is a total non-libertarian argument.
Woo!
No,
That's God.
No, it's not up to the government to tell you how to raise your kids. The government's not there to tell you what to do, how you run your personal life, even if it's disagreeable with somebody. But children, the first responsibility, almost always, will be the parents, and they won't be perfect. But turning it over to the government and the Child Protection Agency, I've seen so much abuse of the Child Protection Agency, protect the kids. They hear a rumor, they go in and grab 4 other kids. One more than worse than that. It's horrible. So they're going to protect the children. But I don't even think there's a medical argument for that. Some people may challenge me on this. But if somebody doesn't inoculate their children, yes, they may be more not vulnerable because some inoculation may well be beneficial. But you're not going to, if somebody else gets the disease from them, they haven't been inoculated. You haven't denied them a right to be inoculated, let them get inoculated. But for them to come in here, and besides, there is controversy in the medical community about how dangerous the inoculations are. But I tell you what, some of our kids got some of those shots, and they got pretty darn sick. Fortunately, nothing permanent, but fever 104, and these cocktails,
Thank you.
I didn't like it, but I do believe in inoculations. I grew up when polio was a very bad disease, and I took a polio shot.
That's
and I
Rand
came-
Paul pretty much
I
said the
remember
same thing.
I got it when we got married, and I came here in
Like what he said,
57 to
but
go to
you
medical
don't think the
school,
government should do it,
and
basically.
I never saw
He
or heard
probably
of
has
an
access to
active case of
individual
polio
vaccines.
because the immunizations
Spreads
came
them
out.
out.
Anyway, that's my personal opinion, but
Clean
the
vaccines.
decision should be
If
the
there is
parents.
such a thing.
And I think the parents sometimes can make a mistake, but when the government makes a mistake, it's a lot worse. Let me just tell you a short story about immunization. I was elected for a short period of time in 1976. It was all an accident. I didn't think I was going to get elected. I exposed myself. But I went in, and Ford was president. I think it might have been swine flu. I remember that in the 50s. Swine flu. It was coming in, it was rapidly across the United States. Millions of people were gonna die. So I think he pushed it. He was running for re-election, which was difficult. And they had to have this massive immunization for everybody in the country for protection against swine flu. And 2 of us voted against it. Myself and Larry McDonald. Anybody remember Larry McDonald? Larry McDonald was a very, very conservative Democrat. So the 2 doctors in the Congress voted against it. And when the dust settled, more people died from the shots than they did from the swine flu.
That's right.
Somebody else has a mic.
I'm Steven. I have a question about cryptocurrency. Like, what's your opinion on that? Because obviously it's not
On what?
cryptocurrency like Bitcoin,
Oh, okay.
Litecoin, stuff like that. Because obviously it's not monopolized by the government, like you said. So.
Well, the political position is real easy. They should be legalized, they should be controlled, but the only rule would be no fraud. But the economic opinion, I think there's still questions out there. Some people are more enthusiastic than others, but if it works as well as some things, it could be a participant in the competing currencies. You know, I want legalized competing currencies to substitute for the monster that we have now. So I think the final story isn't in yet on how good it would be.
Dr. Paul, thanks so much for coming. My name's John. I'm an undergraduate at Duke. So, you're a good man, Dr. Paul. And unfortunately, not everyone sees the same way, especially in American society, who are citizens. So I'm curious, do you think that the U.S. should be moving toward restricting voting? Should the U.S. be moving toward restricting voting access in terms of the epistocracy? Like have people take a test, let's say, just to verify that they know.
I didn't catch all those words.
Basically, he's asking should the United States government limit voting access,
Yeah.
make voting even more limited, and based on tests and things
Well,
like
the
that.
founders would have.
Yeah.
They would have done it, but I just don't think democracy is a very good idea. It becomes a dictatorship. You band all these groups together and they become the majority, and as long as these groups want to undermine your liberties, they can do it by vote. It's probably the most anti-minority thing you can do. You're putting people, whoever's left in the minority, they have no rights. So, no, if government's more local, deciding who's going to be the mayor of a community or something, that's a little bit different. But I think the way it's used now, it is so corrupted. The people don't know they're corrupted. They just do it because that's part of the system. But the problem is there's so much to be bought. Government has so much control and so many favors to pass out that it's an auction. They want to see who gets enough money. So whether it's the campaign money or the lobbyists, it's money because of this idea that democracy and pressure can get what you want. But I didn't have very many business people, all right, very few business people that you would consider a successful business people ever come to me and say, Ron, you're on the right track. I like this idea about sound money and limited government and no corporate welfare. Yeah, I really like that.
You can raise your hand. We'll take one more question after this. Dr. Paul's had a bit of a long day.
Hello, Dr. Paul. First of all, it's really nice to be here. My question is about American politics, specifically and the intersection between that and libertarianism. So my question is, in the context of American politics at the moment, how do you think libertarianism is going to evolve, first and foremost, as a political... How do you think it's going to evolve, first and foremost, as a political philosophy in the next, say, 5 or so years? And how do you think it's going to evolve or change as a political movement?
Okay, I need somebody to paraphrase that question. Dr. Peeps, future of libertarianism. It better be good. I think there's reason to be optimistic about it, but unfortunately, I'm a lifetime member of the Libertarian Party, but I'm not overly confident that they're going to lead the charge. But I think anything and everything, I don't wait for perfection on any organization. Somebody got after me, you did this, and they're imperfect. I said, yeah, I'm going to the Chamber of Commerce, and I've talked to them too. So it's hard to do it. But no, I think the idea, I never heard of the word libertarian when I was in college, and yet I was interested in liberty. Sometimes the definitions of the words have to be changed. You know, libertarianism today, it's a substitute for liberal. It's a substitute. I always like the word progressive. Who doesn't want to be progressive? I think libertarians are very progressive in promoting liberty. And so it's a matter of definition. But libertarianism, I think the principle is going to gain momentum, because I think that's exactly what people resort to when it craters in, when it catches in. They immediately go to bartering. They barter in Venezuela, you know. If anybody has some coins, they get along. That they resort to one-on-one bartering and getting along. It's just it has to be institutionalized.
One more question. Choose your answer. Not trying to walk too much.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Dr. Paul, thank you for being here. My name is Abdulaziz. I'm a grad student here at Duke. I come with a background in oil and gas, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts about the policies that oil and gas companies should take to minimize the impact on climate change. Because to be honest, many of these policies mitigate the impact, and at the same time, companies try to maximize their profits by reducing their commitments to that.
So you want to know how much the current energy system contributes to global warming and climate change?
I want to hear your thoughts about what oil and gas companies now do, because so many oil and gas companies are not that committed to reducing the impact on the climate change.
Well, I think the gas companies have to do exactly what you do with your neighbor. You know, if you believe in a coal fire or a wood fire, and you burn this and you're smoking your neighbor out, that's a violation of his climate and his pollution. If a company does that too, it gets a little more complex, but they have no right to pollute. In fact, libertarians libertarians, I think, are very good on the environment. They don't get any credit because they don't endorse all this CO2 stuff. You know, because I think there's a little bit of truth in all that, but I think there's a lot of myths out there promoted by individuals who have an agenda. And I heard one that was really very much liberal on this whole issue of CO2 and all. And the interviewer pointed out, well, so many years ago, like prehistoric time, we could show there was more CO2. The guy just dismissed it. He said, yeah, but that was natural. That was nature. Well, maybe so. Maybe there's a little bit now. We still have volcanoes and all. But no, I think it's exaggerated. But you can't pollute. That is the rule you have. You can't pollute your neighbor's yard. You can't pollute if you're going to have anything called a public street, you shouldn't be allowing people to pollute those streets either, like in San Francisco. That's pollution.
So what roles government should have to at least mitigate these things that are coming?
Well, they might have to litigate the contest of if you're sending all your dirt or dumping garbage in my yard, I have to call the legal authorities to do something about it, to have it stopped. I think the worst group would be the United Nations. I think the federal government is all bureaucracy. If you want to protect people against drugs, why do you put the FDA in charge of the drug companies? If you protect them against monetary things, you put the bankers in charge. But I was raised in Pittsburgh, and during the war, there was no control. And even after the war, there was no control. And sometimes we didn't see the sun until after noontime. Black soot. It was all over. It was probably one of the most, maybe back then it was the most polluted city in the country. And it got cleaned up a long time before the EPA came in. The EPA is going to, or selling, or buying credits and things like that, and permission to do this, that becomes a political scandal. What happens, they put the regulations on locally, and they cleaned up the city. Another thing that was solved nationally was noise control. And I remember so well when the automobiles came out. Just kidding. Early automobiles had no buffer. And they were very, very noisy and scared the horses.
Like, that's a joke. He said he remembered when the automobiles came out. He's like, I'm kidding.
Cities decided that there would be an ordinance that's a pollution thing. You were polluting the air with all this noise, and before they knew it, all the cities seemed to agree with this. And another thing that was, I think, amazing that brought states together without a federal bureaucracy is, and some people may find this annoying, but the independence of the states insisted they had their own license plates for the cars. And and yet, I'm in Texas, I can drive to Oklahoma, I can drive up here, because the federal government never got involved and said, we are going to legalize it and have one license, all this. What they did was, each state, can you imagine how many agreements there were? Each state had another agreement with all other states, and made it so that each one agreed that you could drive, there were no prohibition. So that was done, in a local fashion, and we just don't need those bureaucrats. Just don't be tempted to trust them. Just look at what you've been watching on television. Who's telling the truth on television on these scandals going on? And believe me, it's bipartisan what happens. And all that happens, all this stuff in Washington, the budget, the militarism, all this, yes, they fight and fume, and they probably dislike each other because they want the power. But I'll tell you what, the bad stuff is supported bipartisan. It's just, do you think it's only the Democrats that spend the money? I think Republicans are worse because they get sworn in because they're supposed to be the conservative. And the same way, liberals are supposed to be anti-war, but they're pro-Fed and pro-war. I mean, you look at Obama's record on how many skirmishes he started, whether it was Yemen or whether it was Syria. So it's bipartisan. It's the principles that they adhere. And the one thing that they're bipartisan, and I did mention this, I think, is on economics, because there's not enough Austrian economics taught in the school. They've all been taught, Keynesianism, so they're all bipartisan, and they're not going to go after the Fed. They're not going to do that. They're going to endorse the idea, it's good for the economy. Zero rate interest rates, and you'll have peace and prosperity forever. Just wait and see.
Amen. Woo!